Yeah, I told Mike this past year, if I see a stretch of 5 days below like 30,
Yeah.
I'll do it. And we didn't have one.
No.
I think the first one came out in like the end of February. It's like, I'm not setting it up for a week.
No.
We'll take it down in March.
Too much work, yeah.
Yeah.
We got a pretty significant cold snap last year after.
Yeah, late.
Yeah, in February, March.
Yeah.
We're at 6:30. People ready?
It's cold over there.
All right, so we'll call to order the November 19th Allentown Planning Board meeting, and we'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And President, we have.
Michael Gray.
And Ryan Rotary. And then
Also present.
Caitlin Sherman.
Chad Willis here.
Mike Rivera, and we have Stephanie Alexander from the Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. Hi, Stephanie. Briefly campaigning for Matt Long this evening. So thank you for doing that, Stephanie.
And Brian is excused.
And Brian is excused.
All right, we'll jump in. You want to take a start, Mike?
Yep. So the first item on the agenda is our proposed CIP for 2026 through 2021, 2030. Excuse me. You've got a copy of this in your email. I don't need kind of chance to go through it. Stephanie, would you like to just go through a high level review of it so that everybody is up to speed?
Sure, thank you. I'd be happy to do so. I'm Stephanie Alexander, as was introduced, from the Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. So the CIP that you have in front of you is updated every 2 to 3 years. This time with the support of town departments and volunteers, our CNHRPC staff worked with the CIP committee and the planning board to obtain the new and updated capital projects, and also we call project and purchase applications over the next 6 years between 2026 and 2031. So knowing when these projects will be coming down the line over the next 6 years helps us to determine the approximate funding impacts to the community, and these can help guide the capital reserve fund deposits that are annually placed every year, and also what the potential tax implications are for each of the project items annually. So the best part of the CIP is that long spreadsheet that you can see, probably in 11 by 17 format, I'm guessing. That's really the main piece of the CIP, because it allows you to see all those projects from the different boards and departments laid out over the next 6 years very neatly. You can see
In the 8 by 11, sorry to do the 11 by 17. It's a little bit of an eye chart. Stephanie, if you want to share, I will let you share.
Yes, I'll be happy to do that.
All right. You should be able to do that now.
I do have permission. Okay, you should be seeing the Excel version of the PDF spreadsheet. And I'll make it a little bit larger. So we call this the Municipal Improvement Schedule, and it lays out the town board and department projects over the next 6 years. On the left-hand side, we have the different departments and the different projects that they have submitted applications for, along with the anticipated total cost over the duration of the project, whether it be 6 years, 8 years, or however long the term is. Even beyond the scope of the CIP, or even before the CIP began, how the project is projected to be funded, so through what sort of funding programs. So not all projects come out of general taxation. Some of them are partially funded through capital reserve funds, some are partially funded through grants, user fees, or some other offsetting revenues. So brief notes are included here in this main method of financing column. And then the year that each of these projects is desired by the departments is laid out year by year on an annual basis. So not only do we have projects from Allenstown Wastewater, Fire Department, Highway Department, and Town Administration. If the town had any bond payments, which you do not currently, we would list the bond payments here over time because they are also paying down a capital expense. And we also list the capital reserve fund deposits that will pay toward those projects that we just saw up above on the top half of the sheet. So you can almost think of it like a balance sheet. You have items that come in and items that come out. So those are what cost money. On the bottom half of the sheet are what we call the offsetting revenues or the reimbursements that kind of buy down that overall tax implication at first. And that once these reimbursements are applied, it gives us a much better idea for how much the actual net payment will be per 1,000 of tax valuation. So to give us our first example for the year 2026, with all of the projects that are lined up, considering all the payments that are going to be made, plus all the offsetting revenues that are going to be used as a reimbursable, about 63 cents will be paid per $1,000 of valuation for all these capital projects. So that is looking at the schedule, that 63 cents per thousand of valuation is the lowest cost in the 6 years period. It looks like the highest amount of projects and overall tax impact will be in 2031, which is 89 cents per 1,000 of valuation.
And the assumption here, just for information, the assumption here is that the town would do all of these projects.
Yeah.
The town may choose to do some of them, none of them, all of them, or some combination thereof, right? So this is a plan that if everything goes to plan and the town does all of these will be the net impact taxes for $1,000, right? But it's depending on the fiscal situation in any town, not only Allenstown, that would basically determine whether some, any, or all of these. Okay.
That is correct. Oftentimes these are voted on individually by town meeting if they're capital reserve funds or they're going to be warrant articles or if they're in an operating budget. So yes, sometimes the departments say they don't want to do a project in 1 year, so they will decide not to do it at all, or they might put it off a different year. So you're right, this is a planning tool to help the town try to figure out what it might need and try to plan out those needs over the next few years to keep the overall tax rate from fluctuating too much. It's a budgeting tool that's provided to the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee, as well as the departments. If you would like, I can go over the rest of the CIP, or I can answer questions.
I just want to make the team aware, there are a couple of edits to this document you have in front of you. They don't affect the document, they don't affect the tax rates or anything like that. They're mostly to do on the school, they're all actually all to do on the school side. Okay, and it's actually getting the latest information into the spreadsheet from us. Okay, so quote unquote doesn't affect the town side, but it's just the school information. And there were typos that be fixed. So if you want to delve into the school side, just want to let you know it's got the information happening, which probably have. Anybody wants to go into the gaps on the school side?
I'm edit. Maybe there's spot the total table 7 on page 17. There you go. Dollar lower right hand side, both property tax credit. Something before, there's basically an extra 2 in there, minus 10.
Oh, yeah. 13 million.
132,226.
Yeah.
I see it. I will remove it right now.
Okay, great, so take out
The
the
numbers
numbers.
are the one. Good catch. There.
Excellent catch. There are a few other little typos here that we found during our review this week. It was my finer tooth review that I was able to find them. A couple of things, so they will be made as typos for the final iteration that you will receive. And just for a little bit more context, the school calculation changes that we're talking about, because of the more precise principal and interest payments that we know about now than what we knew about when we first did the CIP in 2021 that included the school bond project. We can now refine the numbers now that we have more information. It changes the overall school impact by about 35 cents annually for their $1,000 of valuation. So that will be the difference within the document as explained everywhere and on page 24, which is the figure 4. So some of those numbers will change. I have the latest version on the screen, so your numbers will look a little bit lower than mine.
Any questions for Stephanie on the CIP in total?
Regarding the school, is the school going to take the narrative as well? For example, it talks about the school capital improvement, needs to be school buildings, renovations, or reconstructing. And you know, the answer is new construction. So that's what you're saying, new construction.
Michael's question?
I believe so. If I miss the question, please let me know and I will answer more correctly. As far as I understand it, the school didn't really participate much in this capital improvement program. But even if it did participate, the town doesn't have control over the school budget. No, so the school district and the school will have control over the school budget. So therefore, it doesn't weigh that heavily in the town's CIP. It's for informational purposes. So if we know there's a huge fluctuation in one year over another, that way we can try to avoid a lot of capital expenditure on the town side in that year to keep the overall tax rate a little bit more level. But we haven't heard about any projects coming in from the school side.
Yeah, my question isn't on the money part of it at all. It's just in the narrative on what the school's going to do for capital improvement and for trying to put out, if it's for informational purposes, and we should have up-to-date information.
Okay, and what are you talking about?
Page 13, the bottom of table 5. And includes also the footnote 20. So basically it says with the $20 million bond, they're talking about school buildings, renovation, or new construction. And there's new construction, reconstructed new school, we're not renovating, the school isn't renovating the other buildings.
Yeah.
So I just thought it would just be good to cut out school buildings, renovation, or new construction in there. And then also follow up on footnote 20, say the same thing.
I think is that still the label for the 20-year bond? Is it the 20-year bond was for school buildings renovation or new construction, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it would still be tied to that 20-year bond.
Yeah, but I think we would have changed it to new schools or new construction.
Just, we're not,
Yep.
just so somebody you'd say, what, they're gonna renovate those buildings still, and we sold them. Yeah, I didn't say new schools, so, I mean, we might as well have accurate information.
To your point, I mean, on page 20, when you look at the school group, the downtown school district encompasses downtown elementary, DuPont school.
Yeah. It doesn't include Youngstown Community School.
Right, there's no, it's no minimum beyond community school.
Yeah.
So we have very little control over that because that narrative comes from the school district and Stephanie said they did not participate this time around.
Is there anybody can talk to where they would be okay with? us?
Not if you want to do it.
Or we remove it? I mean, can we easily do that? I mean, it's fact and, I mean, I don't wanna do a not my job thing. I mean, we're not touching the budget, the money one bit. All we're replacing AES and ARD with Allenstown Community, ACS, and we're striking out renovations to buildings that they don't own. It's-
So we have to do exactly what we need to do if we want to have this done this year. So give me chapter and verse, page by page.
Yeah, that's page 13. Narrative, what is changed? So page 13, the bottom box of table 5.
So for 2026 FD-22,
Yep,
you want to say,
strike out school buildings, renovation, or,
just say new construction.
yeah, and just leave new construction.
Stephanie, can you update that?
Yes, I'm updating it in real time. I'm not sure if it's displayed on my screen any longer, but
That's okay, as long as you capture it in the version, send out tomorrow now, great.
Yeah.
I
and then,
am.
Footnote 20, that references, it says renovations to improve current school facilities that can be crossed out. Both school buildings, very old and needed renovations and updates, bring them to current standards that can be crossed out.
Okay.
A new school building renovation committee evaluating the options of the, I guess we could say something like a new school building renovation committee evaluated.
Well, we could say that a new school building has been constructed. And is in use.
Yeah.
A new school building has been constructed and is in use.
I'm happy to say that.
Simple.
Yeah,
It's not, you know,
and then what is on page 20?
On page 20,
hang on.
page 14, sorry, 14,
Oh, page 14, okay?
Yeah. figure 2, second paragraph, Allenstown School District encompasses Allenstown Elementary School and Army DuPont. It should just be Allenstown Community School.
So the Allentown School District encompasses the Allenstown Community School.
Thank you. I have that now.
And then the following paragraph, 20-year, $1.6 million or $11.6 million bond for both school renovations. I think we can get rid of both school renovations and just say for construction.
For the construction of the same, okay,
Yeah.
so bond for the construction of a single new building was included in the previous CIP and brought forward in the plan. I think that's correct, right?
Yeah,
Okay, good. Next,
but just easily,
yeah,
it makes it make more sense.
and Stephanie, you got that?
I do have that also on the bottom of page 14. Yes, the last paragraph.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's all.
So, so with those changes, Stephanie has agreed to update it and send out the updated version. So what happens next is, you'll also see in your packet the public hearing notice. So we have to have a public hearing on this. Hopefully we can do it by December 3rd, everything's agreed, but the revised document tonight. So we will bring that forward for public hearing on December 3rd. And then if there are no further changes on that night, during the public hearing, the board can actually adopt it by signing the signature page in the document. And then it goes to the town clerk to be recorded, and then it's done. Okay. And then it's over to the town, Kathleen, you're on the select board, it's all the select board to do with it as you please.
But that's, and to really go through it, so I'm excited to do that, because I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of CIPs.
Yeah.
But one thing I did notice in looking at it is it says that the town adopted an impact fee ordinance in 2003.
It did.
So then it says an impact fee study must be developed for each department, and I think you had told me that we got hung up somewhere.
There is a survey that has to be done first, before we can actually implement impact fees. The town adopted the ordinance and enforced the ordinance until the rest of the process is complete, and the town has not done that yet. So there is an ordinance, but it's unenforced, and it's unenforceable.
Yeah, that's great. So is that something that the BOF needs to take action on?
No,
Because that's,
it's something we need to put money in the budget for.
do we know how much it usually?
That's probably gonna be in, I would guess, in the $3,000-4,000 range. Yes,
So it's like,
and it's not, but it's not money we currently have.
yeah,
So I would suggest at this point, we table it till next year's budget discussion, and that we plan to maybe work on it in 2027.
okay,
My suggestion.
okay.
I think that's,
Well, it doesn't look like we're getting a ton of growth, I mean, looking at the projected population numbers between 2020 and 2050. I mean, it's 400 people, almost 10%, but, well, I mean, it's not like they're estimating a population explosion. Looks like it's right in line with neighboring communities. It's okay. I was curious about that.
yeah, no, that's the reason why it's in the ordinance, has been for many years, but cannot be enforced.
It just,
So due to the rest of the process.
yeah, since 2003, I feel like we should on that one. Really been very hard to beat.
It's round two, it's right, so. All right,
And we need a vote on approving.
no, at this point, it's just, it's occurrence and, okay to move forward to public hearing. And without, we're sort of without objection kind of thing.
Yep.
And if that's the case, then we'll, schedule the public hearing for December 3rd. And hopefully that night it can be adopted by the planning board and recorded and then presented to the select board. All right, next steps. Anything else for Stephanie this evening?
Thank you, Stephanie.
Stephanie, thank you so much for all your help, not only with this one, but with the previous one, because a few of you probably know is that Stephanie drove the previous one, drove a car on the previous. Got it all sorted out because it hadn't been done for many, many years.
Oh,
And helped us get to an end point after many, many meetings. And kept us all in line. Oh, well, so thank you, Stephanie, and we appreciate you stepping in tonight for Matt.
Anytime. It's good to see everyone again.
Take care.
Talk with you later.
Good night.
Goodbye now.
Bye. Good. So with that said, there's a public hearing notice in the packet. So that's going to get posted. Hopefully Friday, but by the latest in the newspaper on Saturday, and then that will allow us to have the public meeting. So just for next steps, and it'll be also posted on the bulletin board. And when we get an updated version of this tomorrow, that will also be posted on the bulletin board here for anybody and posted on the website. News and announcements, all coming up in the next couple of days. All right, good. Great. All right. Excited. The proposed changes to the zoning ordinance, so Caitlin got in under the wire. With a proposal. So again, in your packets, you have to report, you go to the second page of the packet. And by the way, Caitlin did an excellent job of providing all of that information. Good work, Kate. Oh, that's
I wasn't sure if you're like, you can choose things, but you just send out the whole packet to everyone.
Nope, you believe in transparency, so.
Yeah. And I want to know that I actually didn't prepare with any of those materials other than like the Allenstown specific things.
This actually came from a 104-page packet for pig zoning. That's nationwide. I forget. Someone else has prepared themselves.
That's how we do it.
But although this looks like, it's like, yeah, I just pick and chose certain things to share with the group. But it came from a much bigger packet.
The benefits, nowhere on my radar at this point, what motivated you to promote this?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll give you kind of like a history of like pet pigs briefly. So pet pigs became really popular in the 1980s, where it kind of became a trend where people would get a house pig, and it's just kind of like a dog. It sleeps in the house and it goes outside to the bathroom and they can do tricks and so although I call it a trend, it's been 50 years, it's actually still very so you're probably thinking, how does this relate to like New Hampshire? I know a farrier who's actually an out-of-state farrier, in New Jersey, and he comes up and does, New England runs, through and, I asked him, I'm like, how many people, actually have, pigs in their houses? He said his client list is at least 65 households just in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
And he's out of state, so it makes you think of all the other farriers who are local to New Hampshire, like what are their clientele look like, right? Personally, I know people from Berlin, New Hampshire, Brandon, New Hampshire, Rochester, Bow, Concord, Londonderry, there's 3 in Nashua. So it's actually still more popular than you think. So going back to Allenstown zoning, I was kind of taking a look at, residential district and livestock. And you can see our definitions that they actually, give a definition for livestock. And at the very end, they say what the exclusions are. So dogs, cats, birds, will not be considered livestock. This specifically mentions pigs as being part of livestock. But there's no differentiating information about the different kinds of, so really there's livestock pigs, where livestock are meant to be outside animals bred for a certain purpose, meat production animals, things like that, which is very different from pet pigs, which is different from wild pigs, which we don't have here except for Peterborough, New Hampshire, and then medical research pigs. So I was looking to add in here and differentiate. I realize it's very specific, but companion pet pigs to be excluded from the livestock definition. I don't know how much more in the weeds you want me to go with this.
At first, I thought you were talking about my neighbor, like setting up a pig pen, and I was like, no, I don't smell that all summer.
So the intent of excluding it from residential, so we're looking at R1 and R2, really where they're excluded from. And if you look like at the houses in R1 and R2, Pine Acres Road, Kimberly Lane, Sunset Ave, Heritage Ave, they're single family homes with nice yards, and they probably have dogs. And these mini pigs are a lot smaller than the house dog. I didn't know like the different size comparisons of dogs. And currently, if someone had a companion pet house pig in those districts, and a neighbor complained about it, code enforcement would have to give a violation, and it would have to be. Now, a lot of house pigs get rehomed within their first year. But one of the major reasons why they get rehomed is because of zoning. Because most towns go in and do a blanket statement, pigs are livestock, livestock's not allowed.
Yeah.
But this companion pet pig will stay within the intent of the purpose. There's not gonna be hog farms in people's backyards or anything like that, if it's primarily indoor house pig.
I was disappointed that Mike didn't get to use it. That's what it is.
And while we're at it, we want to also include poultry, including but not limited to. It's animals typically raised in a farm or agricultural purposes, such as pig, poultry, including but not limited to. It currently says but limited to chickens. second census.
Oh, but not limited to,
I assume it's, the intention is not limited to,
yeah,
otherwise including limited to would make sense.
but would that change the intent of the definition for livestock?
If you ever seen that movie Second
I
Hand Love?
feel like it's just,
Oh, I don't know, you've gotta watch it, there's a little pig.
and it's just poultry including but limited would be a contradiction.
Yeah, but not limited, okay. It,
It says other types of poultry that we want not including.
Yeah. But I believe we have a current motion from Mike to approve,
Yeah, and also to update, but not limited.
including, yeah. We have a second,
With that,
all right, by Kathleen, roll call vote,
Kathleen, I.
Like Jay, I
I guess, I,
Brian, aye.
excellent,
All right,
we can move forward.
yep, perfect. And then we wanna finish our conversation, from the proposed zoning amendment from last, right? Did you include the correspondence from?
No.
No.
No. So, I guess you, well, yeah, no,
I know we had, I have thoughts, but I wanna open it back up now that we've had time to consider. Mike, you had a number of suggestions or recommendations that you wanted to entertain. Any other comments or feedback from last discussion? I have thoughts, but I know Kathleen, you weren't here. We, part of the conversation was about adopting the new RSA into our regs, the new RSAs that came down from Concord about multifamily homes in industrial, light industrial and commercial zones. And then Mike, do you want to talk through kind of what your thoughts were?
Yeah, well, I was wondering, how everybody felt about with the multifamily units being mandated. And, we weren't sure what zones, but we're thinking like all of them,
Yeah.
that it wouldn't be necessarily be
the clarification, it is all of the zones.
It is.
Any commercial building, it includes all.
Yeah, did they say what the rationale was?
No.
Is, because that's the $1 million question.
It's to allow more housing.
Yeah, I know, but I mean.
Right.
Are you talking about the lawyers, what the lawyers said?
No,
Oh, okay.
the intent of the RSA is to allow more housing.
I'm talking, I put on what the lawyer said,
Okay.
on word. So I don't know if we wanted to try to shield any of our zones from that, like the commercial, light industrial. From that, and if we did, which way how we would like to go about mitigating or shielding.
My understanding from that legislation is that we can't, that state law is gonna supersede anything, any local entity or municipality tries to do.
Yeah,
And maybe I'm mistaken.
No, so
but that's-
by our zoning, if the board was to choose to remove certain by right permissions from the zones, any applicant would have a right to go to the ZBA for a variance. Right? And if the ZBA grants the variance, then the planning board will be obligated to accept any application and approve it based on, the routine conditions of a site plan. If the ZBA were to deny a variance, the applicant would go to the Housing Appeals Board or Superior Court. And the understanding is that it would likely be referred back to the town because state law trumps whatever the town says.
Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
and I did try to make the point that we can contradict state law. I know what state law is. My point, what I wanted to explore was, is it indeed cover all our zones? And if so, what's the legal argument for saying that based on the definitions provided in that statute and based on our definition? And to say, oh, well, no, it applies to everything. Well, why? I mean, it's gonna come up somewhere, sometime, and it's gonna, the president said, So why not get ahead of that and get a legal opinion on which one of our zones are affected, all or none? And why? Just a simple explanation of how the definition in that statute makes it apply to all our zones.
Yes, it
Or not.
Align.
Well, because some, yeah, that's,
New Hampshire Municipal Association, you're looking, you wanna.
I was best.
I think you could get that in HMA. There, I mean, they lobbied, they worked well, this legislation was coming up, I think you're all aware, I think they stood actually in staunch opposition to it. Their lawyers were constantly reassessing these bills, and they provide free legal service to the town. I just know for the, as far as, I don't know what the legal line is right now for you guys with the planning board, but I know the budget is a hole right now with the town here. Legal line, so.
I mean, I could go to the attorney, I have some friends, and they ask them to look at it, or someone in the state look at it, says, oh, this person could do.
Has free attorneys, and if you want, you actually can send an email to them and it's,
Yeah.
and we just.
Yeah.
If you go to the website, there'll be a link, and you just let them know that you sit on a planning board or whatever, you have a question, and they get back to you in a day or two.
So we did get input from legal inquiries through, yes, so, and so there's, yeah. So there were, if, as I recall, yeah, there were 3 topics that were suggested, I'm just gonna paraphrase, but tell me if I'm wrong. The first was, do we have to include the RSA in our regs? Even though they will exist and they are law, do we have to include them? That was the first. The second was, can we make any changes or edits rezoning to our existing zones or uses in those zones to not allow, building a multifamily homes by right in those specific zones? And then the third was bringing it to the state from a political or legislative approach to see if we can change the legislation, which I think we've all agreed was probably the least likely option, just because the sponsor for this is the one who proposed it and is who we have to go to. It's our. So is that the 3, did I characterize those 3 points that you would?
Yeah, well, the main overarching point that I had is, how do we know which zones it applies to, rather than saying we think it applies to all zones?
Bottom line that we got.
Responsibility of the planning board, not just to say that, but to have a legal.
The bottom line that we got back from the legal inquiry that Mike did was that we essentially have to comply. If the zone allows it, we have to allow it. But
And that goes down to, how do we know if the zone allows it?
so that is the crux. So I had a printer meltdown. So I would have printed out my notes, but I spent like an hour trying to troubleshoot and I couldn't. So I have them here. I think there's a few things that I have as thoughts, and I didn't want to give voice to them until I had a chance to kind of think more through it and look at the data. But there's a couple of things I think regarding removing commercial uses from light industrial zones, or the zones that would be allowed for multifamily homes to be built in. I think the downside to that is that, one, we're going to stifle for future commercial growth within those zones. So we would restrict that right within those various zones for any new business that might come in to those zones unless they're already grandfathered in. So we're potentially manufacturing a solve for the multifamily, but we're also creating another problem where we could be potentially restricting commercial growth within those zones if we were to allow if we were to change the uses for within those zones. The other is you would recommend or suggested maybe rezoning or changing the uses. It is something that the planning board has the power to do. However, we also, the significant lift, we would have to spend a lot of time and hours to rezone that. We would have to get legal input from an HMA, from Matt and his team, which does have a cost that the town would have to incur. And again, it comes back to creating a lift where one may not be needed because we're trying to solve for a problem that may not need to be solved, right? I know where you're coming from, and I think it's an absolutely valid concern. That we're not Nashua, we're not, Manchester. We're a very small town where these problems could be very, very real. But it's just thoughts that I have. Are we creating more problems by trying to solve one?
Yeah, but I think that the first thing we should do is get the legal opinion on which zones that applies to in-house.
Yeah, we've done that.
Yeah, it's all.
NHMA provided their thoughts, the NHMA doesn't give legal guidance, you gotta understand that up front. If you want an actual legal opinion, we'll have to go to the town attorney.
Right. And
You said you
take
want to do
an
that
attorney
for us.
to, it'll take an attorney to.
No, it doesn't take an attorney. It's
Look at where
Of the RSA, it's basically for any commercially zoned land.
Right, so we have.
Commercial, industrial, business. And
Our
industrial,
definition of commercial doesn't include industrial and business.
Any
And even says it's big,
land, like,
But
any
that was.
commercially zoned land, that's the term. Okay, that means any land for commercial activities are permitted.
Yeah, that was my understanding watching, as I was watching the legislation, I attended, listened in on some NHMA presentations and other towns were posting about. There was a lot of opposition at the municipal level, but throughout it all, it pretty much to me, it was commercial in its entirety. If the state, what they're doing really is they're trying to expand out, they don't
I
want.
understand. Yeah.
So they're not even putting any like holds, they're not saying only this type of commercial property, everywhere.
Yeah,
And there are cases for, we can protect industrial zones without gutting commercial uses within those zones. For example, I think it was for health or harm.
Yeah.
The planning board could deny an application in a zone for a multifamily home in the case of health or harm to the residents. Also, if the infrastructure cannot support it. So those things still have to come before the planning board or the zoning board, depending on the situation. And we have the right to approve or not approve the application, but we will still see the application and be able to weigh it, on a case by case basis.
Have we had a lot of interest in residential development in our commercial zones over the years?
There's only a case last
I remember there was one a couple of years,
with the piece of property on Pine.
that wasn't.
And that's only maybe 3 years ago, but that's the only piece of commercial property, large piece of commercial property like that had sale.
Yeah, and the zoning board denied that.
Right, so, I mean, going along with Matt. I mean, if we talk about. Taking some of those things out of the industrial and some of those permitted uses. Does it protect the town by doing that more than it hurts the town by making those people go to the zoning board and getting a variance to do it in that zone after we remove it from that zone?
One more time.
So if we were to take what the stipulations that require our like our light industrial zone, the things that allow this to happen on our light industrial zone, if we were to take those out of our permitted uses in that zone. Would the benefits of not allowing the multifamilies there outweigh the issues we might cause by having people that possibly would want to develop that land and adding one more step of them going to the zoning board before they were able to permitted to go further?
Because essentially it's impossible to stop them, all we could do is make it more arduous.
Well, but what I'm saying is if we take office space, I think office is one of them, right?
Retail office space.
Yeah, if we take that out of our permitted uses for the light industrial zone.
Uh-huh.
And we now. The multifamilies can't. Or aren't permitted by right in those zones. Because it doesn't fall under the criteria. If we do that. If somebody comes in and wants to put office space in there or retail space in there. We would, by taking it out, we would be adding one more step to their process by going to the zoning board and asking for relief from the zoning.
Yeah.
So it would protect the property, but at the same time not do what Mike's asking to do.
yeah, well, I think that what Mike was saying from New Hampshire Municipal Association said that doesn't matter and that they're not. I mean, so I dealt with them.
I totally also was not listening to what he was told.
Players and it goes by the language, and I've never seen it anywhere where someone says, oh, it applies to all commercial. and put a very not good definition of commercial, that includes retail and office space. And then that just is a magical thing that applies to every zone and every town in the state of New Hampshire. I've never seen anything like that in all my life,
Well,
and I'm very surprised,
That's for, yeah,
waiting for the first legal opposition to it,
and,
and there'll be precedent.
oh, I mean, it just goes down, you're right.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get ahead of that.
But regardless of whether it changes between now and July next year, when the law, when the other states, portable, regardless of it. We'll still have, it's once July runs next year. If the law still is the same, with it likely will be the phrase that was used by the NHMA attorney is that there does not appear to be much traction to change the law.
Yeah.
That's the term they use, okay, I just put it out there, right? Having said that, it could change, right? If we choose not to put it in now, it won't be in our zoning ordinance for next year. And if the law does not change, you know, we'll still be obligated to do it, come July, right? So, to my point last time, if the board turns over, if we all decide to leave, or we all win the lottery or whatever it may be, and if somebody forgets about it, then the town is at risk of leaving.
Yeah.
So, if you, no matter what our zoning ordinance says, no matter what our site plan regulations say, no matter what our subdivision regulations say, you are still required to comply. So, with the Trump, the RSA. So, that's the only point.
Yeah, even if it's that one article is voted down and it's not in our zoning ordinance,
If this section 1329 got voted down in March next year, the planning board is still legally required to enforce it. So there are many of these, pretty much all of the proposed changes are to do with changes in the RSA. If some and or all of them got voted down, planning board is still legally required to enforce them. So it's one of those rock and a hard place things.
and like, the RSA doesn't force multifamily development, right? It is just allowing multifamily development everywhere that commercial is, and I personally feel that I prefer a proactive planning solution versus a reactive solution to a problem that may or may not exist. That is my personal stance on the matter. And I think that, to Chad's point, developers and residents, they need stability they expect predictability in our RSAs. And either by not introducing, by leaving out the new RSAs from Concord, by not introducing those and leaving them out, that causes instability. Removing commercial uses from our light industrial could induce instability. And I think, to Chad's point, creating a situation that could cause confusion or instability with future businesses, with current residents, feels like a risk not worth, the juice is not worth the squeeze, so to speak. In the effort it would take to go through rezoning or change of use, remove the uses for those. So that's my.
and that would only be permanent if that was the legal rationale for that applying to the zones. It sounds like there's not, there's a blanket.
Yeah.
Rationale.
Yeah.
My question is if we put it in the zoning and there's an outcry of towns that say this is killing us and they change the law, does our zoning still allow it?
Only until whatever new law takes effect. And that law is-
If the law is gone, but we still allow it in our regs, and we allow it.
Oh, you mean if it gets revealed
If it-
at the state level, but
Yes,
we've already put it.
But if we put it in our regs,
We can also be careful.
yeah, but it takes 18 months, yeah. So I mean, any plan put in before our regular changes
Yeah.
are still drag through.
So I don't know if that's.
The same could be said for any of these changes.
Absolutely. But this is, I mean, none of the other ones are quite as hot topic, is it?
No.
Like it's,
I think about the scale of development in Allenstown as well, like we've been doing this for a little while and we haven't seen that many projects come across, especially in those zones. Like the scale of what we're talking about here is a factor of what,
well,
one or two?
in the last 4 years, we put in
Yeah.
150 units in those zones.
With new properties.
Look at the scale. Point
Yeah, but
in numbers. I mean, they took recent development, I'm guessing when they look back at history, historical trends.
right,
They predicted-
but this is it.
Like our home didn't change.
Yeah,
Something's very changed.
yeah, that it could spur, and we are a hotspot, I actually felt like the numbers were low because. Where we are situated right between Manchester, Hooksett and Concord, and I feel like the populations. They're trying to come in as we get out of those.
Still a little below like all-time high, right? It's not all-time, 40, yeah,
Yeah,
47, 48, that.
Yes, I don't know if we cite the regulation directly, if the regulation changes. Or it's gone, if that, someone can still say, oh, wow, I don't know. If that's the case, to read through exactly how it's written.
Is an addendum an option
It's basically in accordance with,
in accordance with state law? Should this state law change? The RSA, the local Allenstown RSA. will
Well,
change
if
it.
that particular RSA changes.
Yes.
it would be the one that would be enforceable, not the one that's in the ordinance.
Yep.
Right?
yes, the state law will always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Well, that state law is.
We can open it up broader than this, or open it up more than the state law will allow. We could allow
Yeah.
residential in a commercial zone now, and that's.
Yeah.
That's the point, is that if we don't word how we put it in there, that we're strictly following state law by this.
We are limited to what?
So I just wanna, so you're assuring me now that if next year, if they repeal this law next year, you cannot, at that point, you will not be able to, the way we have it worded, you will not be able to put residential and commercial in this town once the law's gone. If the law was repealed in the next session,
Repealed, yeah.
and it is still in our zoning, I wanna make sure that it's written in our zoning that it also repeals it from our zoning.
No. No, that's not the case.
Well, then, at that point,
It's not the case with any zoning.
what, yeah, but is there a way that we can write it so that,
Not that I'm-
can we just put blah, blah, blah in accordance with RSA, state RSA,
So long as.
Just have it.
Haven't done
state
it.
or House Bill 631.
Yeah, we don't, we always score on the station.
Yeah.
But they have to it.
Yeah.
Reference. Can they amend to RSA? It needs.
Does the zoning law that we've changed, does it at least stipulate this does not take effect until such and such a date?
Yes.
Well,
that's the statute, but it doesn't.
So that's by statute, so then if. We put it in the zoning ordinance and it gets approved. It's part of our zoning, so it would be effective March of 2016, right?
Yeah, if that was being the case, and we couldn't otherwise put a condition, say if that statute was changed, then this is. No longer applicable.
Well, we have to say that for everything.
Would be the rationale not to put it
We have to say.
into our zoning ordinance now, and why we do it next
I
year.
don't think personally, I've heard, you can't pick and choose. If you're going to do that for something you're putting in because of RSA, you have to do it for everyone,
No,
not just. Why not?
why we,
Because
there's no law saying that.
I think we're wrong.
And our saying, we're talking about allowing this.
I think we've got an instance in the zoning ordinance where it says it's not effective until a certain date. So I think we put that into this ordinance.
I think that,
The particular one's not effective until a certain date.
Okay. That's fine.
yeah, effective On the very first thing in accordance with the visions, RSA 6477. As enacted, you put the start date. As enacted, effective.
Well, typically, that, again, so
July.
the effective date will be at the very end, be on like say 84.
Yep.
Or it would say that, the effective date of this amendment is July, what number, whatever the date was,
2026.
July 1, 2026. So we could add that,
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, all right,
I think that's probably bad.
that's it, okay, so let me capture that, hang on.
And then if the law is repealed, if it's in effect from that point forward, we have 6 months of time left in the year before it can be changed.
Effective date,
unless we continue for some way to. Have it not be effective, a lot of appeals. Put that simple language in. Yeah, here's.
I think if we're that worried about it, we leave it, but we don't put it in at all.
I think it's good points on both sides. Mike was saying, well, for the board turns over, we're gonna forget about it. And then there's, you know,
But we,
in the off chance it gets repealed, which we don't, chances are, you know, we're stuck with it for a certain amount of time.
if this whole board changes tomorrow and somebody brings that, or next year and somebody brings that to light. There's not a major subdivision or a major plan like that that's gonna come to without New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission, and they will absolutely step in and say that.
I also think it's like outside of us, if this information is public and should be made available to the residents, in my opinion. Like that's part of the stability part that I'm talking about. If the law exists and it's part of our regs, it should be included as part of our regs.
So it's easy to understand, people who are trying to plan projects don't have a day and say, wait a minute.
I'm not trying to do back alleys, hide stuff from there.
and also, I mean, I've heard this so many times from different people in NHMA. One of the major purposes of the planning board is to assist residents,
Yes.
contractors, and developers with developing projects within the town. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it's, if somebody wants to do it,
I
we
see,
should be assisting them in accordance with the law.
I see both sides of the argument too, but I have to say I agree with that. I feel like it's transparency for developers, for the residents, and even if it's a short window of time, if that does get repealed, we can address it the following. And honestly, how many projects are gonna come in that 6 or 8 month period? However
Well,
long?
if this,
You have a lot of things that's repealed just like this, and when it got passed, it doesn't go into effect till July 1st. When they repeal stuff, it may be the same thing, it may go through the legislature and be repealed as of December 31st the following year, like, you have time to act on it.
that would be the window where all the products come.
Oh,
If this is,
cut it out.
no, but if this is repealed, then anybody's free to do it, that's the.
So you already know all the rules, and you don't need it to be in our zoning ordinance for that to know, because it's a statewide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But
so, yeah, they're. Developers with that.
So are you okay to leave it in, give it an addition?
I don't know,
We need to make.
You still have a vote, so
Yeah.
I think it would be appropriate now. Unless there are any other new comments. To have a motion on whether to approve this draft. And finalize the zoning ordinance.
yeah, well. For the whole, all of them, or are we talking?
No, we should do it in this.
Because I have other edits.
But you can say.
Yeah. So I have other edits for others to approve. As well for the public notice and on these, council.
Everybody already say that from the state or.
Edits to our language. And it's not editing state language.
Okay. Yeah,
And just a couple things, page 80. And I don't think, I mean. I think that if we're gonna vote on whether or not to include. That one. Section, I don't think we could vote on it separately rather than the whole kit caboodle they approve them all.
I think the motion would be to approve the draft of the zoning ordinance amendments in preparation for a public hearing. Would that be correct, Mike? Yeah. So we'd be approving the whole thing to go to public hearing at a date to be determined by.
And you don't wanna talk about.
No.
Not having one, and
We can talk about like the edits that you have certainly, but I think we'd have to send them all. If we're gonna send them.
Alright, page 80, this section 1323. In accordance with Division RSA 674:41 C. After 41, there should be an apostrophe, a comma, and the Roman numeral 1. Comma, and then C. So this Roman numeral 1 is missing. In that citation. 674.
Yeah, 41C.
41. 1 C. And that's straight from the statute.
Okay.
And then on the title of the page, section 1323, developments on private class 6 roads. I think Tad had brought it up last meeting. Private has nothing to do with that. We should strike private in there.
Or the RSA does.
Class 6, not in I C. It's all about class 6 roads and nothing about private roads.
Yeah.
So it's misleading to have private.
Okay. Next.
I think that's only edits on the zoning ordinance. And I just wanted to bring up the with these ordinances further action to keep in mind is that we need to change the public policies and procedures for class 6 roads and then maybe take it out. I don't know, to make it fit that statute, but that we need one for private roads. Because the statute for rule that goes in there talks about the private road identifies and complies with policy adopted by the board. So we would need to have a policy for in case there was an appeal on that.
Have you proposed that for the 2026 amendments or for 2027?
Talking about right now, we have a policy for class 6 roads, policy, and that we would need to morph that into some of one for private roads. We have to.
Yeah.
We're required, we will be required if somebody appeals that wants to do something for that statute. We need a policy adopted by the board. For that required. So
I'll ask you to develop the policy and bring it to the board. So
To be included in 2026 or 2027? 2026, we have a short window.
I don't know if we have it in tomorrow.
Saturday, this would be.
You're saying that-
Would just be the end of December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not December.
You're saying that that's something. It must be aware that we need to have a policy.
Well, I know that at the last budget committee meeting, they haven't even finalized the budget or what warrant articles are gonna go on, and they're waiting till they get everything from the school, so it's not gonna be, I don't think, was it the end of December, Chad? I think it was around that time.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff isn't gonna be
Yeah.
finalized till then anyways, it's not, we won't be holding anything up.
So, I mean, Mr. Chairman, that's fine. We'll have draft proposal for policy on private roads to the board at the next meeting. And it will have to be agreed that night. if it was going to go into effect for March of 2026. You know, you don't want to argue.
Mike, what do you think?
Will I be able to do an outcome or something, but.
No, we can all spend time on it if you want to collaborate on it.
Yeah, I can start something, then I can email
Yep.
it to YouTube, not everyone gets interviewed.
Yeah, you should send it to everybody, because that would be.
Correct, me as follower, correct.
Yeah, send it to.
Yep. We can add to the agenda for December 3rd. Great.
All right, and then on the multifamily residential development, we talked about language to make it effective for 1 July 2023.
So what I captured was. The effective date of this amendment is July 01/2026. So I will take that for the next time.
Great.
And the other thing we might talk about. Get those in. And the policy, hopefully we can all the policy in the next week or so. And then we can actually do it in the next draft. Maybe next.
Yes. Oh.
And if we have a draft that we make changes to on the meeting of, we can approve that as the, okay, and then,
Yeah.
Okay, so post.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then I have a couple things on the public, you want to talk about that now, or you want to finish talking about the zoning?
You're probably table a public hearing, because we're probably gonna edit, we're probably gonna change it.
Well, I'd like to capture what you have. No, I'll be in front of the mic.
Because
This one, right?
there you can.
Yeah.
You didn't have that one, but
Okay, that's. Okay.
this just went to straight characters.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's, yeah. Alright. I don't think these changes, I don't think. Okay, good. Alright, so do that, we'll have an updated draft of the proposal. For both amendments for our meeting on the 17th. With a goal of proving that right. So we can actually get a public hearing done. Actually December 3rd, so we can get a public hearing done on December 17th. Okay. Because honestly, if we don't make December 17th, we're going to be in a world of hurt, because we have to allow enough time for 2 public hearings. By law, so just in case something comes up at the first public hearing.
In order to get that draft, if I'm understanding right now, because I missed the last meeting, it seems like there's a bit of a disagreement on whether or not we could be including that. Should we take a preliminary vote to see how the board feels, so that maybe you can amend it how the board is probably going to vote? Instead of coming back and then maybe a vote goes a different way and then we don't have it approved on the 17th, that impede anything or no?
So there would be 2 votes on the 17th. First would be to include the RSA's
Okay,
from
so-
Concord in our regs. The second would be to approve the actual draft of the zoning amendments.
Yeah.
Correct? So we would have 2 votes.
But in no matter which way the votes went, it wouldn't hold us up, like what we voted on the 17th, would be voting we deal on the 4th.
One is to include,
If the district wants to take it out, we should.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I was just thinking, if it goes one way and then you're like, now we're gonna go to the.
it's zoning amendments, so those have to happen. So we have to vote on that, or at least the question is whether we include this RSA's being stated in our zoning.
Okay,
So, so for example, what you could do, you could. Motions are made in affirmative, right?
Yeah.
So you could say, at the next meeting, you know, there could be a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the zoning article with the exception of section 31.
okay,
Okay, and that will be voted up or down.
and then it's easy enough for you if it was voted down to just.
Slow down and it's easy to take it out.
Oh,
Until you're ready for a public hearing.
yes. Well, that's what I was worried, I'm like, oh, is just how we vote gonna mean you have to go back and do a week's worth of editing or something?
That's when you also accept changes until the board makes a decision, but then it's easy just to reject the entire change.
Yes.
And that just reformats the document.
Okay,
All right,
perfect.
good,
All right,
good.
we move on to the unapproved minutes.
Yeah.
All right, from the November 5th meeting, do I have a motion to approve?
It's approved.
By Mike Ed,
Second,
by Mike J. Roll call vote.
Kathleen, I.
Like, I,
I guess I.
Ryan, I.
Excellent, we got it. All right. Yeah.
Here you go. And then we're gonna do legislation.
Yeah, so the situation with legislative changes, as we all know, remains fluid. There are a bunch of House and Senate bills in various states of draft, which will potentially impact what we just discussed. Right, again, it's not here, so just be aware of that. We'll come on that as we get along.
What's the best way to replace the fine?
I can send you one.
Okay.
You can sign up for an email and you'll get it every night at 10 o'clock.
Oh, nice.
I'll send a link up before.
Take it home.
You can trigger on as there's changes, right? You don't have to get it every night, you can do it as it moves forward. You can trigger it, you can do it based on shares.
Okay.
When things move from communities, you can. Do a vote.
So you have,
What's that?
you have.
Yeah.
But, so just to, under, correspondence and other business, just to circle back on. We had mentioned about, the old flood sand and gravel site, or Club Hills, we affectionately call it. So apparently, our zoning ordinance and state law does not permit transfer of permits from one owner to another. And does not permit an owner that has a permit for one site, use it to extend it for use on another site. That's not permitted by state law, so we're going to have to reach out to the new owners of that site. And basically tell them they have to file a site plan excavation permit. So their existing permit is not what they're currently doing on that site. So more to come on that, but that is like sort of a breaking information. We'll have to. Sorry.
It's a long process to go through when you let them know, sorry, you're operating.
Yeah, it's not a real one, they just have to file the paperwork to the board.
Yes.
And then, you know, peer fees and all that kind of stuff, and then the board can actually schedule a meeting, planning board meeting. Or that can be reviewed pretty quick.
Okay, so it's been really like major.
No, it's not a major issue, they do it before, in fact, for the existing stuff, it'll probably be coming in next year.
Yeah.
Permit.
3 years?
Every 3 to 5 years, I think we gave them 5 years the last time.
Did we? Yeah.
So I think after next year, we're coming up again, so they know.
Yeah.
They know how to do this.
Okay,
It's
good.
not new to do. And Chad, just to circle back on real estate signs, so we looked all out of that. So bottom line is that real estate signs are typically exempt. Alright, and on top of that, we have nothing in our ordinance, signage ordinance, which says that regulates the size of real estate signs or permanency or not. So we would have to change something in our signage ordinance to make that happen. So unfortunately, bottom line,
So we can fix it next year.
unless we can get it in for December 3rd. Proposal.
Hey, I got one. Yeah.
can you write the private roads one?
Yeah, and I think it could be as simple as like adding to our sign that sign regulations that a real estate sign can be used for the sale of a home, for sale of a home.
So you got a throw in for that, I bet, like, Lander, I might even talk like Frankfurt or something, I bet other towns may have that language, just cut and paste.
Yeah, well, did you make the one for,
I think,
did you make the one for classic road guys? Or is there somebody else did that?
we did it. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think we did it. I think that's been there for a long time.
Yeah. It's me, sure. It's Chad, so.
Yeah.
We talking from the building inspector. And so December, so next meeting.
I didn't wish it the other.
Business updates,
Sure.
those sites, officer at Overshine said they are right now in the process of renovating Rite Aid building. Besides move things over. And they plan to have what he calls a state-of-the-art store. And they're gonna concentrate mostly on their barbecue and power. And they're gonna dispose of any product lines that are not selling that well and focus their product line more tightly. He sent me a graphic of the new signage. Can't use it because it's got dimensions on it, but it'll say Overshine Ace Hardware. And it'll be in three colors to make it even more effective. And planning, I think, grand opening the end of January.
I'm moving in sooner than that.
Yes, the other thing is, you probably noticed the beehive of activity down at what I'm calling the Allen Plaza. Next to Sully's. I talked to. Drop off one side, I did a little video of the whole thing. But he was saying they're putting a lot more money into it than he expected. They're doing a much higher quality job on this renovation, in addition to Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. So, party. Some kind of a masonry board, 4x8 sheets. And they've got the front of the building pretty much finished. They used vertical 1-3s to cover the nails and seams. We had actually painted the signs are temporary, they're out there now for the businesses. They've got professional signs on water. They even dug holes in the front of the building and then putting steel bombs in, said to keep cars from rolling into the building. And in the middle of the plaza, they've already installed a concrete pier. They're gonna put a huge light tower to light up the entire parking lot at night. And they've been doing repairing curbing along the mains. So it's a pretty extensive project. And he said right now they have no plans for using the upstairs. The building is size, it says on the tax card, it's a 20,000 square foot building. That means there's 20,000 square foot second floor that you're not using. That could be offices, apartment rentals, I don't know what. He says they have possible future plans to make that accessible. Right now, they're just gonna renovate the exterior of the building.
But that would almost be something like that. Ordinance we're talking about, they could put apartments there now, like once this change goes into effect in July.
There's similar usage in Concord, right here, Airport Road. It's this deal, this couple of strip malls. First floor is all businesses, the second floor is all apartments.
Yeah, absolutely.
All streets the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's walking communities.
Take a good look at the 55 feet in this park.
Thank you, Mike.
You want to go?
Next meeting.
Do you have anything else? Maybe anything else?
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8 p.m.
Second, roll call vote.
Kathleen,
Like today,
Yes, I.
Ryan.
Remember that. 48, thank you, everybody.